Andrew McCart, iFLTV, always delighted to be joined by Mr. Eddie Hearn. Eddie, I've never seen this for a fighter for a long, probably never, in fact. Pat Brown, I mean, big lunch, his face is on the menu. I mean, you must be excited about this young man.
Yeah, I am, because I think it's an important time for British boxing now. We've got a tremendous stable in the UK and globally, but people often ask me, who's the next one? Who's the next star we got to get excited about? And I look at Pat, looks the part, great fighter, great pedigree, can punch, loves a tear-up, massive support in Manchester, and I think he's the one. I do, and I think we're going to enjoy the journey, but how you build a fighter is how you build it from the debut. The announcement, the media lunch, the evening with tonight, this is how you build support and you build excitement and you build narrative. And I think Pat's the right guy to be doing that with.
You said to me, I keep bringing this up because you said to me in Liverpool one time that we were talking about misfits and you said they've got the product outside of the ring, but we've got the product inside the ring. We need to get the product outside of the ring, which is the personality and all this sort of stuff. So when you hear a big guy like Pat say that his guilty pleasure is to have a tear-up as a promoter, that must make your life easier.
And that's one of the reasons why we make the investment in him. I know that I've got a product in Pat Brown that I can just roll out and say to the fans, just watch. I've just got to get them watching. I've got to get them bought into the journey. I've got to sell them the narrative, and it's quite easy to do with someone like Pat. You've interviewed him, he's engaging, he's a man of the people, he's worked on the building sites, he's over Old Trafford, he's out running the streets of Manchester, and I feel like the city will really get behind him. I mean, we're talking about debuting in March in his own show. He thinks he can do 3,000 or 4,000 himself for his 6-round debut, so that's a real, that's Johnny Fisher kind of levels, but at the pro debut. So this is a kid that I think is going to be filling arenas in this city.
When the promo said the glory days are returning, now for me the glory days are Ricky Hatton, maybe Anthony Crawler as well, who had Manchester on lock. Is this young man that good that we're going to see the glory days of Ricky Hatton?
Without doubt, and we wouldn't be we wouldn't be investing in the financial level, but we wouldn't be investing our time in the promotional level if this guy weren't the guy to pick up the baton from Hatton and Crawler and those guys. But he does it with pedigree, Andy, that's the difference, do you know what I mean? It's not like a guy that just turns pro and fought in the ABAs. This is a guy that's consistently performed at world level in the amateurs. This is a guy that went to Paris Olympics. This is a guy that's fought the very, very best and always be competitive and always beaten the best amateurs out there. So we know he's got the ability, we know he's got the fan base. So for me, I said, it's going to be on a plate for you. No one delivers opportunities like Matchroom do in terms of bringing a fighter forward, giving them the shows consistently to perform in, not just in the UK, but around the world. And he's going to get that. I said the only thing that can stop you is not working hard enough and not being good enough. And I don't think either of those will apply. So fingers crossed, and by the grace of God, this man's going to be the next star of British boxing.
It only means that he's managed by Sam Jones now.
That's the only downside, So.
I was going to ask, obviously, you're going to be a busy man with Sam. He's got a lot of fighters in the Matchroom. But I've got to ask, man, you work with a lot of people. Where does Sam rank in sort of managers and people that you've worked with in boxing?
I think that the key, listen, I used to be a manager, not in boxing, but in golf, and representing athletes.
Back to Big David. Back to Big David podcast was brilliant, by the way.
Enjoyed it. So, for me, the key is communication with your client, right? Speaking to them, understanding them, and going on that journey together. I think it's very similar to being a trainer. Like you're training fighters now. My advice to any young trainer is you have to live the life with the fighter. There are a lot of trainers out there that don't communicate with the fighter, that aren't on the runs with the fighter, that aren't, not dieting with the fighter, but the whole process, it's got to be like a real, mentoring of an individual. And I like it when a trainer is invested in that journey, Right, finishing the gym. What are you doing tomorrow? I'm going to do my run in the morning, and then I'll be back in the gym in the afternoon. What time's your run? Oh, 8 a.m. All right, I'll see you there, yeah? Where are we going? The ability to be able to go out and do that. Or, if you can't physically do it, get on a bike or be there. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference for me. And that's what Sam does very well. He's quite new to the game still, and he drives me absolutely mental. But he's not going to let anything slip. He's not going to not fight for his client, and he's on it 24/7, annoyingly on it 24/7. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you want as a fighter. You know, I think jokes aside, I always joke about Sam driving us mad, like non-stop, but that's a manager's job. To be honest with you, if a manager's not pissing me off or aggravating me, they're not doing their job for their client, and that's the reality.
I'm pretty sure Sam can piss you off no matter what. Just a quick segue over to Conor Benn. I think it's 24 hours left for UKAD to make that appeal. Are we any further on that?
No, I haven't heard anything. You know, we can't. That's not down to us. We'll wait for that news. All we're doing now is planning his next fight, and you know, he's got a tough decision because he's got a lot of opportunities. Obviously, financially, and the biggest fight for British boxing is Eubank, but he could fight for the world title in London, and he could win it. But it's obviously financially not the same, and you know, part of me wants him to go and win a world title, but that can come. I do think the fight is Eubank. Hopefully we can get it over the line, and we'll see what happens.
Well, he mentioned the only fight that can maybe put that Eubank fight on hold is that Barrios fight for the WBC world title. Again, you're talking about finances and stuff like that. So would that be a conversation with Conor, or is that just a no-brainer to go for Barrios?
No, it's already a conversation. It's difficult because Conor's had 2 years out the ring, really. A couple of very small fights, but like financially, he's been through a lot. He wants to make it count. He also wants to smash Chris Eubank to absolute smithereens. And he also wants to deliver a massive fight for British boxing. So you've got to marry that up with a world title as well, and know that, you know, in Conor's mind, I can beat Eubank and then go and fight Barrios after. Do you know what I mean? But it's a dangerous fight against Eubank, not because of his ability, but because he's 2 divisions heavier. But with the danger comes a huge check and a huge opportunity, and Conor's a prize fighter, and you know, it's something we've got to consider.
After the last 2 years, do you feel like the British public still has an appetite for this Eubank-Benn fight?
More than ever. Yeah. I mean, we see by the numbers. Now, that fight, when we announced that fight at the O2, went on sale, it was the fastest selling fight we've ever had at the O2 by an absolute mile. It is a monster fight, and it's a monster build-up, and it's like, it's so compelling, the narrative around that fight, you know, and now it's even more violent, and there's even more animosity. When we first made the fight, I wouldn't say there was an animosity, like they didn't really like each other, but it's kind of like a little bit of respect, because it's like, look, our fathers have walked this path, now we're walking it. Now it's just pure out hatred, which will lend itself to an even bigger fight.
I said to Conor and Saudi, I mean, nostalgic feeling for me, because I watched their dads with my dad fighting, but now I'm somehow in a mad universe interviewing the two of them, and it's just a mad experience. So on a nostalgic feeling, I desperately want to see that fight. So, Eddie, please.
Yeah, I think you'll get it. I mean, we're talking to the team, the Eubank team, and it's not going to be easy. But if everyone's sensible, I think we'll get there.
I know you've got a big 45-minute thing with Coogan, so I'll just try and keep as many questions as I can here that Coogan didn't cover. Now, Anthony Joshua, I heard you say that you've got, because he's not going to fight immediate rematch with Daniel Dubois, that it depends on the outcome of Tyson Fury Usyk. Now, we as boxing fans here in the UK, we want to see Joshua Fury. So, Tyson Fury beats Usyk come December 21st. Is that the fight that you're going to try and push for the second quarter next year?
I think that Fury against AJ is the fight regardless, in all honesty. Like, people keep saying to me, AJ's not rematching Dubois now. Not true. AJ's not rematching Dubois on February 22nd. He still wants to fight him. And AJ will return in May or June, and that might be against Daniel Dubois. Still the biggest fight out there for Dubois. But we also understand that the Fury fight is a monster. And it will always be a monster. You know, people stop me all the time. When are you going to put Fury AJ? I go, yeah, AJ just lost and Fury's rematching Usyk. Yeah, we know that, but when are they fighting? They don't care. They just want to see those two fight. So win or lose for Fury, I think those two should fight twice next year. But if Fury can do the business, that makes Fury AJ for the unified world heavyweight title. And that would be huge.
100%, definitely. Now, Eddie, I'm probably the only Scotsman that you talk to on a semi-regular basis in the world of boxing. So I'm going to ask a selfish question here. I've seen Frank Warren sign a good friend of mine in Drew Lemon, young Drew Lemon, 19-year-old, and I've seen Ben Shalom sign Sam Hickey straight out of the GB squad. Now, when I go home after a matchroom event, or I go home after a big Saudi event, and they know I've been speaking to Eddie Hearn, I'm not exaggerating here, Eddie. I get, oh, Andy, how was the show? Aye, good. When is Eddie coming back to Scotland? When is Eddie coming back to Scotland? So, Eddie, I'm going to put it to you for the people of Scotland. When are you coming back?
I'll be honest. Like we had some chats with Josh Taylor, of which those talks continue. But unfortunately, we're going the weekend of Tommy Fury KSI. Sorry, Tommy Fury Darren Till,
yeah.
probably on the Friday night. And unfortunately, because of the training situation of the same trainer with Darren Till, Josh Taylor couldn't fight on that weekend. So that was a shame because we were looking to return back to Scotland in January, but we keep talking to Josh and there is a chance we could work together, and if we do, we'll be back in Scotland in the first quarter. But it's something we want to do because we know it works, and we haven't been for ages. I mean, the last show we did in Scotland was Ricky Burns against... No, it was the one after that. No, it was that one. Yeah, sorry, Ndongo. That's right. Yeah, it was Ndongo because it was after he won against DeRocca. Yeah. So we haven't been for 8 years nearly.
We miss you.
Yeah, I know. Listen, and we know that we do really well up there. So we'll see how it goes with Josh.
Now, a little sort of semi-personal question. Eddie, I've noticed you've been wearing a cross around your chest, and I remember you hit me with that Bible verse, Romans 8:18. Have you sort of found a little bit of faith, or are you leaning toward religion a little bit more? What's the story there?
It's a very personal question, Andrew.
That's what I mean, it was a semi-personal.
I think that as you get a little bit older, you like to consume, I do anyway, a lot more information than I did, and knowledge of when I was younger. Like, one of my big regrets, actually, I say this to my daughter a lot, is I actually regret not trying harder at school. But it's very difficult to say that to a kid because they just don't understand. And I wish I would have tried harder at school. So much so that I'm actually thinking about going back into education in some respect to just try and learn more. Because I think knowledge is power. And I think there's nothing more impressive than people who have great intellect, to be honest with you. So the religious thing is not, I think you're around people that you respect and you like and you care for who are religious. A good example of that might be Tony Sims. A very good example of that is Katie Taylor. And you just watch and listen, and I think some of the Psalms that I share back and forward with Katie, like Romans 8:18 is, we've talked about before, is it for me it can be quite generic, but to so many different things in life. Like, roughly translated as, the pain of what you're feeling is nothing compared to the joy of what is coming. And that can be the loss of someone you care about. That can be hard times in your life. That can be a workout. That can be a fighter. What you're feeling right now, it's kind of like a hang in there psalm, where it's like, I know it's tough, but good times are coming. Jeremiah 29:11. That's, and I was talking to Bridget, Katie Taylor's mum, about Jeremiah 29:11, and I actually sent to Katie Taylor yesterday, actually, we were talking about, and I sent her another one that I found. I mean, don't forget, like, people like Katie, they know virtually every psalm, and her mum Bridget, they can recite literally every psalm. And one that I sent her was John 13:7. And which is basically, like she said, I won't read her message because obviously it's a bit personal, but it's like, when I put my trust in him, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. That's what she said. So it's like, to have that confidence and belief in your life, to trust in God's process, is very powerful, because it actually helps you to deal with all kinds of different situations. So especially like the loss for a fighter. And I think to be able to just accept loss and defeat and hardship as part of God's plan for you is a very powerful thing to be able to do, personally. And I'm not there yet. And I may never get there. I'm not, I'm not all of a sudden, decided, but I'm fascinated with, belief and faith as well. Not just Christianity, but I find it very powerful across all religions, the passion that someone has to put faith in the leader, their God. and you know, it's a very powerful. Faith is extremely powerful. I think it can do incredible things in terms of how you live your life, and I think it can give you great peace as well. Yeah. So I'm exploring, and Katie Taylor has definitely helped me explore that side of my life. My dad's actually quite sneaky religious. You know, like he's not going to recite psalms, but he's, you know, I know he has strong faith. So I think a lot of time people don't really like to talk about it or are afraid to talk about it, you know. But I think as you get older, like me, I find it quite fascinating, and you know.
It's the same as me, Eddie, because I think I've came into faith now over the last 3 years, and when you hit me with that Romans 8:18, I was taken aback, and then I have noticed the cross around your neck, and I thought, you know what, it's a semi-personal question, and I was almost withering whether I should ask you or not if you found faith, but I mean...
I think the answer is, have I found faith? I think I've always had faith, but as I get older, it's just a way that you live your life, and, you know... you know, it all started, a lot of how it started was, I had a bet with Coogan about a tattoo, right? Yeah. And I lost the bet. I still have to get the tattoo. It's bad form by me. No, but what happened was I thought, I want a good quote for a tattoo. So I typed into Google, tattoos, you know, powerful quotes or something like that, and it came up Romans 8:18. And I read it and I was like, wow. Like, and that started getting me into reading a little bit of scripture, and particularly Psalms. So if I did ever actually do my bet, I would get Romans 8:18. So watch this space.
The big fight week coming next week, but I won't talk about it because I will catch you Thursday. Young Matt Lenahan's been patiently waiting. Eddie, thank you so much as always, my friend. I'll see you soon.